to the head.
Turn something off, yeah.
I'm trying to do more for the soul, way less for the bread. Oh yes sir. I take pack to the lung, kill the stress to the head. I see the things that they do way less than they say. Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out.
Yes, we are live.
Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out. Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out. Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out. Can't be a real, might get you canceled.
Are you there, brother?
The whole system need to dismantle.
I am.
We live?
Okay.
Oh, okay. I couldn't hear you.
Yeah, we
I didn't
live.
hear any music or anything.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Can you hear me now? You can hear
I
me?
can hear you perfect now.
Okay, good. Good.
Yeah, I just had to make sure that I had turned something off.
Yeah, no
But,
problem. No problem.
Yeah, man. So it's good to be with you again today.
Yes,
I wish we
yes,
had more
indeed.
time to chat earlier. But that subject we were talking about earlier is very, very interesting. We got to talk about that sometime.
Yeah, for sure. Because
And,
I know that firsthand.
I know you do. I know you do. And that's why once I became aware of it, you know, a lot of, just like what we're going to discuss today, a lot of the things that are surfacing now, we just call them by a different name. It's pretty much the same energy, but you know, every generation has different terms and names for certain things, right? And that's very similar to what we're going to talk about today. And as I was telling you with your spot on work, you were in description that you were right on point about what's happening in this world today, but it also happened for the last 500 years. So a very good topic today. We're going to talk about actually the schizophrenia that exists in this God of war and hate. And the reason why we have to examine this particular topic now, I had been in conversation, you know, with a couple of people over the past month about certain things. And what people don't realize is this is very confusing to people who are able to see things, right? Like all of us that are connected to you. We all have this gift. But at the same time, there's still some kind of need that our people have to stay connected to this energy, almost like not wanting to offend it. So when you have a different perspective than the people who, you know, are still pretty much caught up into this energy, then it makes things go left. And instead of being able to have, you know, a productive conversation with a person, it turns into some kind of war between you and them.
Yes.
Right? And it's so funny, this dynamic exists with our people, because even though we can see this attack on us, we refuse to say, okay, well, let me hear what my brothers and sisters are saying. We're getting better with that, but it's still, you can still feel that tension.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was a little disappointed because this brother right here, you know, I had a lot of, and one thing, another thing I realized too, brother, you can't, and you and I talk about this, and we personally have experienced this and know this for years, is that when you break away from that system and they know it, they're going to open all barrels against you. And usually it's good. So if you're not willing to take the gut punches, then it's better to just stay in that comfort zone, right?
That's right.
Or not get in that ring, because you know what's going to happen when you get in there. And if you're not willing to get in that ring, okay, and then you have what people don't realize is boxers are some of the best conditioned people in the world. They put, you know this, Lance, personally, they put in the road work, They nonstop. They put in the psychological work, okay, and they put in the, well, you get a spiritual high once you get to that level of conditioning, particularly running for miles. It kind of drives you or takes you into another realm of
the zone.
experience, right?
Yeah.
So the interesting thing about today, and you know, this is not something that's going to happen overnight, but the more we chip at things, and now that our pineal gland is open, we'll begin to be able to receive things that before we couldn't receive. Yeah. And it all starts with having an open and honest dialogue. And that's what I appreciate about you, brother. Whether you agree or disagree with a person's opinion, you don't let that stop you from letting that individual express exactly what it is they're feeling and thinking. Right. And that's something that's so important when how these dialogues are facilitated, or the facilitator, right? Because if you have someone, I remember seeing I guess it was a podcast, and this guy was on there, but the host kept, you know, interfering, and I guess he definitely had a different angle on it, right? And I was like,
that's the worst thing. That's the worst thing. And on that note, when you're dealing with people, especially in that way, a podcast, a show, you're the host, but the variables of people that come in, they bring different energies. Bingo. So it's like surfing. Every wave is not the same. When you're on a surfboard, which I've never done, but I can see in theory, you have to balance yourself according to how strong or weak or tip this way to the left or right that wave is.
Yes.
On.
Yeah, you have.
It's almost like if you have 5 guests on, it's almost like boxing with 5 people, not against them, but evaluating their energy to know how to balance things out. Because what you are really doing, you're balancing everybody out and their energy, lots of times in a nonverbal way, to make a better listening experience, to make everybody comfortable, to bring out what's inside of them, right? So the main thing is, when everything's on cruise control, let the guests talk. People know me. I don't have to keep interjecting myself and invite people in and then push them away and keep talking over them. You know what I mean? And then you have to see
what terminology you use, evaluating people's energy, because that's actually what you're doing. Yeah.
And the person who's not as strong to talk to, maybe a little meek, a little shy.
Yeah. And the other ones can dominate.
If I bring them in more.
Right.
Right. And make everybody feel as though you're polite with everybody. You know, say, hey, man, you got a great point there, but, you know, I want to hear what she has to say in conjunction with what you said. In other words, you said, shut up, let her talk, but you did it in a different way.
Right.
And so you have to watch everything, like you're watching the dashboard.
Yeah. Like a referee, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. They got to look closely, because it's the listeners that need to be in tune and rewarded with what they want to hear. Yeah. You're bringing these different ingredients there. You got to make sure, like a chef, to put everything together, but these are human beings now. So you really have to watch closely. And sometimes guests will have little grievances with each other if they knew each other before, or different ideology.
All the time.
I've had people come on to try to piss me off, but I remain cool. You know?
Yeah, I've seen that before. You know, I've been following you for almost 5 years now.
Whatever.
So I said, you know, I've been connected.
I love being quiet when everything is running smooth.
Yeah. So I've seen a lot of the older ones as well. And that platform you use. But so today, brother, again, I want to greet you. Thank you for all the hard work you put in, to Mrs. Scurv, and to the LANCESCURV network out there, the family. If you want to put your banner up so we can go into this, I'm gonna tell a story that will actually bring out help you conceptualize the topic today. And sometimes, and I learned this from one of my teachers or professors, she actually took a hard subject and she explained it, statistics, she explained it in human terms. And it was so different because she would take groups or numbers and then categorize them and then show the social dynamics between the intersocial dynamics and the outer social connections. And it was something that had an effect on the way I began to view things and also how I began to tie things together. And today, I know some people, we're going to take the religious aspect out of it, although we are going to use scripts for several of the points we're going to make today. We're going to take the emotional religious aspect out of it and deal with the points that we are that we are going to bring out that are very, very contradictory, particularly when you talk about the social manifestations of the people that worship this particular schizophrenic God. Mm-hmm. So if you put the first picture up there, Lance, I want to go into this story and kind of explain why it's important for us to talk about this schizophrenic God. Yes, thank you. So one day, this story is very important, and if you listen intently, you'll see the connections between this story that I'm telling, this fictional story, and the actual non-fictional reality of the experience of Black people here on this planet. So, okay, brother, I just wanted people to get that concept in their head, schizophrenic God. Thank you. Mm-hmm. So one day, there are about a couple of hundred Black folks, nice summer day, hanging out in the park. You know, we like to have cookouts, barbecues, what have you, right?
Yep.
And all of a sudden they looked up, and this ship landed, and this alien comes out of this ship. So immediately it took on a kind of generic human form, you know, like had like, olive skin or what have you. And it came down and it walked up in the park, and Black folks started looking. They were so fascinated. And they began to get down on their knees and start saying, praise God and Jesus. And soon as they said Jesus, the alien did a neural link with them for what's in our subconscious. And immediately he transformed into a blonde-haired, blue-eyed white Jesus. Because that's what he saw in the that's what's in the subconscious of 99% of our people. Okay, you can ignore that or deny it or whatever. This is a fact. And so our people just got so like emotional and singing songs or what have you. And then all of a sudden somebody said, hallelujah. And the alien turned into this gross looking figure. 2 weapons came in its hand. A ship came down and they obliterated everybody on that part.
Wow.
So the army came and they couldn't capture him. So he said, well, bring all of your cameras to broadcast this across the world. And so he said, he came there because of a situation that is going on their planet right now that has a 500-year history. And so first they asked him, they said, well, if you were being so nice, I missed the step where he increased the amount of chicken and hamburgers and hot dogs that was on, you know, and wine and everything that was on the tables, right? Beer. And so the people were just so fascinated. They just knew that this was the second coming that they believe in, right? So they put all the cameras from around the world, you know, and the aliens started talking. And they said, is this some type of hostile takeover of our planet? He said, no. He said, but we are programmed, when you say the word Alleluia in our language, that means to steal, kill, and destroy.
Wow.
And I want to explain that using three different fundamental aspects or linguistic aspects of English, and why some people have referred to it as a bastardized language. And then we're going to come back to that part of the story. So a homonym is each of two or more words having the same spelling or pronunciation, but a different meaning and origins. An example would be right. When you say, oh, right. So you mean they're correct, right? But it also could mean opposite of left. Okay. And then you have antonyms. Okay. Antonyms are words of opposite meaning, such as hot, cold, near, far, tall, short. And the big one is synonyms. It's a word or phrase that has the same or a very similar meaning to another word. This is the one where Black folks, where this schizophrenic God and its children and worshipers have really done a number on us. Okay. Now, so it's a word or phrase that has the same or very similar meaning to another word or phrase in the same language, like beautiful or attractive. So I can say, oh, she's very attractive. Or I can say, oh, she's very beautiful. Has the same meaning. However, because energy is the dominant force in the universe, when we encounter everything we encounter, the energy portion of it affects us first, even though we don't know it in many cases. So the alien was trying to explain to them that when you say Alleluia, that meant to steal, to kill, and destroy. And that's the reason why he destroyed those people. Okay, so we're going to talk about in this story about these planetary invaders who basically came from a planet of ice. They were ice planet refugees, right? Their god was Thor, and they were from the planet Woden. Okay, so he told this story. It took like 3 hours to tell this story. And he told this story about how these strange looking people came from another planet to their planet because they were running away from their planet now, getting ready to be destroyed. And at the time, and I'll tell this as we end the story, the real reason why they left. But when they came to their planet, it was like 100 million of them because the planet was turning into solid ice. Well, it always had unfertile soil. They couldn't grow any vegetables in it. They couldn't grow any fruit in it. They couldn't get anything from the planet to survive. So they basically ate other things to survive. That's all I say about that, okay? So when they got to their planet, you know, they opened arms to them, and they taught them how to farm. They taught them how to, take care of themselves, hygienes, and they taught them how to basically survive, take care of their young. They started going to their schools for 40 years. Okay, they started learning everything on that planet that, you know, they had to offer them. And they said, as they begin to mature and have more people and learn their ways of life, you know, they started going to their schools, they started getting positions in their universities and different aspects of their society. But then he said one day the tables turned. Oh no, he said that, and they began to erect temples, you know, big edifices, you know, and they would go into these places, these facilities, and worship this god Thor. And as time went on, they began to convert some of their own indigenous people to this new religion. And they were so forceful with what they taught that the people began to forget their own creator, Ptah. Okay, they also began to forget their greatest scientist, Imhotep. But these strangers constructed a temple, a shrine to Imhotep. And they changed his name to Asclepius. And so the people began to kind of graft towards away from their natural, let's call it religion, so we can keep people's mind focused on what we're discussing. And then they changed the concept of what Ptah and Imhotep taught them. And then they began to start, you know, they would go into these facilities on a specific day every week, and then their nature started to change. They started to feel like they were superior to us. And not only that, they began to, our people began to catch diseases, and a third of our people began to die because we had no cure for this. And we had no natural immunity against this. And I remember the people that live on this island, I think it's off the coast of southern India. I can't think of it, the name of it, but they recently, I guess over the last couple of decades, came in contact with them, but the Indian government protects them. But this so-called missionary went there, this Chinese guy, and they ended up unaliving him. And the same thing with, you know, anybody that tried to approach them. So they were simple, their lifestyle, they didn't have any prisons. They didn't have any KK cops shooting at them every day. They didn't have any of this stuff. They didn't have to worship anybody that they looked at as a savior. They were just living in natural harmony. And this is what he was explaining was on our planet. So they begin to see this shift, this sort of schizophrenia take place, right? And Lance, if you put up that second picture, I'll explain this real quick.
Yes.
That they created this particular law within their religion called grace. So it meant that they could be hostile and hateful towards the indigenous people and then go ask for forgiveness. And through the grace of this god Thor, they would be forgiven. Okay, brother. I just wanted to point that out. And so then they also began to do acts like they started to take over and commandeer their minds, taking all their resources. They formed terroristic groups on their planet. They started raping the women. They created these drugs and these high-powered weapons to destroy people, and they had a war amongst themselves first. And they destroyed half of their own people, and then they turned around and destroyed half of our people. So one day, we got this council together And we asked our greatest scientists, what can we do to exterminate? Because they're going to destroy our planet like they did ours. They said, well, they have a genetic flaw. He said that if you create satellites to emulate the power of your sun and turn it up 10 times, then you will have a weapon that they cannot defeat. Okay? Because they had all these high-tech weapons they created that the people from his planet hadn't created because there was no need for this.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have wars. Okay, you know, they had disputes or what have you, but not wars like we see now. And so they got together and they created about 10 powerful satellites that could duplicate the power and the radiation of their own sun. And they turned them up 10 times. And then they noticed that all of the baby oil that was in the stores started disappearing. And from that baby oil, they created something they call sunscreen. And they tried to fight against the sun, but in 30 years, they were eradicated. And so today, I want to talk about, Lance, if you put the picture up of the God that people pray to. Now, I want to ask this question, okay, because this God is asking the same question, or basically making a statement. He's saying that, you know, I'm schizophrenic. You know, I hear voices in my head. And not only that, they're asking me to do things. Okay. So, and the things they're asking me to do, well, whatever the answer is, I don't know. But it's so ironic that this schizophrenic God that's hearing these voices is looking at it that way. Because you see, in the natural world, you know, every time something happens is, oh, we'll pray for you or we'll pray for that family. In theory, there is no need for a prayer. All it takes is for you to receive what's already in the universe. It's already here through our divine natural laws. So finally, the alien, before they put those satellites up, they created their own language. They also forbade any reference to Ptah or Imhotep or any of the former deities that our people worshipped, deities of peace. And they changed, like the synonyms, they changed one word into, although it sounded just like the words they had on their planet, to them it meant something totally different. And this is why you have to know that if somebody is reading a script, those words and the interpretation of it is diametrically opposed to who you are. And see, this is why our people have this spiritual and psychological enslavement, because of synonyms. Okay, because again, the alien was trying to explain to him that they were peaceful people, that he didn't want to destroy. But when he heard Alleluia, he didn't know if these black people were being possessed by this Thor god that had followed him, okay, all the way to Earth.
Right.
Because they deal with energy, right? And he said, well, I didn't know if these people suddenly, if I triggered something when I turned into this God that was in their subconscious. And again, he said to them, what Alleluia means to you, it means war to us, right? And so with that in mind, I want to talk about this subject today. Okay, brother. Thank you, man. I think we got pretty much the initial concept of what we're going to discuss today. And It's the schizophrenic god of war and hate. Now let's give a definition of schizophrenia first. Okay, schizophrenia is the presence of different types of symptoms, which include delusions, hallucinations, or disorganized speech, refers to a pattern of speaking or expression, okay, that is incoherent, illogical, or difficult to follow. And I added a few things, but it can actually be classified as a psychotic disorder. And I want to show the picture of that tormented spirit that is the real manifestation we was laughing about last. Yeah. Now, if you could actually see the manifestation of this schizophrenic God, this is what you'll see. And you'll see this, we see this in the spiritual manifestation and, spiritual, psychological, and physical manifestation of the people who worship this God that they have forced you to worship. Okay, brother. And that other picture you can put up too, because this is a form of schizophrenia as well. If you take a closer look at it, most of a lot of the people you see with the cross hanging around their neck are ones that's committing atrocities against humanity in terms of what they're producing, their expressions, their behavior. But yet they have these big crosses. But the symbol of the cross is seen more so in cemeteries. But the Ankh, the letter Ankh, which means life, that have been seen by Imhotep and produced in the vagina of a melanated woman. I think I've shown that picture before, Lance.
Yes.
Well, Imhotep, the Ankh, is in the vagina of a melanated woman, a black woman.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but you see here where you have this battle between so-called good and evil. Okay, whereas in reality, both of these entities have the same manifestation in American society, okay, and throughout the diaspora. The cross is there, and it's seemingly attacking this mythical being you call Satan. But they both, if you look underneath the cross, what do you see in our society? Now, I'm not trying to be judgmental of anybody. I'm just saying that you see all of these skulls or dead skulls. Then you see the woman laying there, naked, legs open, suggestive. These are the manifestations you see under this particular religious ideology. Let's be real. Okay, brother, thank you.
Okay.
So hopefully with what we've just shown and talked about, now you get a clear picture of what we're discussing today, and we're going to go into this. And I have maybe 8 to 10 topics we're going to go through real quickly to sort of bring this out a little more. And I want to go back to the question I asked originally, and we're going to talk about the contradictions between the Old Testament versus the New Testament God. But I want to ask the question, are you praying to a God of war and hate? Okay, and this is a major contradiction, because it seems like the more we pray to this schizophrenic God, the worse it gets for our people. Okay, let's just keep this real. Okay, ain't nobody trying to get emotional about this crazy stuff. We're just trying to examine this for our people to have more of a conceptual knowledge of what we are literally dealing with, not what you're fantasizing about. Because this religion is still have a vice grip on us, brother. We can't move forward like this, because first of all, if you don't say Jesus with them, they're going to immediately use this thing they call the Holy Spirit. Because I experienced this against you. Well, the Holy Spirit is saying you are, you know. Have you ever seen the Holy Spirit? No, I haven't. And like I often say, all I've ever seen for Black people, no matter how much they mention this name Jesus or Holy Spirit, is an unholy, counterfeit, warmongering, hateful, bigoted God towards our people. Now, you can get angry at me all you want, okay? But we are the ones that's standing in the way of the creator creatrix new system coming in. And then they tell you about the fact that if you don't bow down to this God, then you going to hell. No, you're living in hell right now, while they're living in so-called heaven and laughing at you.
Right.
So
I remember, I was going to say one thing. I remember going to a church when I was about 13, 14 years old with some friends of mine. The whole family would go and they're like, come on, let's go. I said, okay, I'll go with you. And they had like a prayer line, something going on when you go up in front of the pastor. And he smacks you in your head, you're supposed to fall out. Right. So everybody did their thing instead of speaking in tongues. So I got up there and I wasn't trying to be funny, but he said his words in tongues and hit me in the head.
Oh.
And I'm standing there like, you know, I was.
So that punch didn't knock me out. I don't know what you. Is that all you got?
He came, pow, and everything looked at me, and he motioned for one of the ushers to come up, and they were like, "That's that resistance spirit. Let's take him in the back."
Oh my goodness!
I was a resistance spirit.
Whoa!
And they're gonna pray that resistance spirit out of me because it didn't go along with the production. Yeah. And they were on me. Yep.
Resistance spirit. Wow. Okay. That's a new one I got now. That's a new one I got. I love it.
This is back in the 70s.
Boy. Oh, yeah. That's when they were really, our folks was really entrenched in that. And they probably wanted to knock you out because if you didn't fall out, it was like, oh, no, that resistance spirit is too strong. So we're going to discuss the contradictions of this Old Testament versus New Testament God by looking at the character traits and attributes of the schizophrenic God. And we're going to deal with the topics and the subjects that are very important in the foundation of what we have been indoctrinated with. So let's look at creation. All right. This is probably one of the first big, if not the first big contradiction that you encounter when you look over. Well, encounter it when you first read it or it's preached to you. But our people with these scripts, what they want to do is just accept it at face value and just keep pushing. So in Genesis 1, interesting, it says that Earth's creation, in Earth's creation, the male and the female are created simultaneously. Okay. But then when you get to Genesis 2, I guess they went back and the misogynist said, oh no, we got to correct this. Man is created first, and then the woman is made from the man. Now, see, this one change that they made from Per M Haru, or coming forth by day and night, that they you can call it that as well. They call it the Dead Sea Scrolls. But this one change they made was a very big conceptual change for our people. Because prior to this, we never separated ourselves. Like, now we know that males have different attributes and the females have different attributes. And when they come together, it makes a perfect whole, right?
Right.
That is what the natural purpose of it is. But now you go back and you make yourself a god. Because now instead of the creatrix creating this, you say that a man created, right? So even though you may not look at this initially like this, in your subconscious mind, it's there. That's why somebody can tell you about an Adam and Eve, and you refuse to look at what was on the earth hundreds of thousands of years before so-called Adam and Eve. Even with the proof of Dignesh and the Y chromosome being the oldest DNA on the planet, our people still refuse to accept our natural history. That's why that term I was telling you about earlier, I'm starting to see they deal with sorcery, bro. They do. They really do. I'm convinced of that. And because you can see it in terms of how they use synonyms, how they, you saying the same word, hallelujah, and don't know somebody got an AR-15 pointed at your ass because you just said that. Okay. You thinking that mean that you in some type of harmony with them, where their god, Thor, the god of war and hate, is looking at you like you are their biggest enemy on the planet, which you are. You just don't know it. So let's look at Exodus, the 34th chapter. Now, those of us that know this know that the 10 Commandments was taken from the 42 Native Confessions of Miyat. We know this. Okay, how much you lie about it. Again, our people don't want it. I remember those old Charleston Heston movies, the 10 Commandments, and what's his name? Yul Brynner.
Yeah.
Yul Brynner playing Pharaoh, and all. They just twisted and reversed our story totally.
And made it so convincing too.
Made it so convincing. And you're right, made it so convincing. Because when you pass stuff down through generations, that's why I say their descendants are, no matter how much they try to deny, well, I didn't own no slaves, or I was a blood. Yeah, but you passing down the same plantation mentality from generation to generation, and you're keeping it alive. Okay. So this 10 Commandments is a different list of moral responsibilities that we see in other scripts that talk about this. So 2 Samuel 24:9. Here's another one. Now, this was a major battle in the Old Testament, right? So here's where we first encounter the schizophrenia and the manifestation of it coming out. And just like the religious wars, the Inquisitions, okay, where they basically decimated Europe with World War I, World War II, this battle, in this battle, they said that Israel has 800,000 soldiers and Judah 500,000 soldiers. But in First Chronicles 21:5, it says that the Israelites had 1.1 million soldiers, and Judah had 470,000 soldiers. Now, that's a big difference. That is a major difference. And first of all, the people that are telling this story, they wasn't there. Let's get that straight, okay? So you're looking at an estimate at best. Okay, so this story is hundreds of years old before, or over 1,000 years old before the first manuscripts that they wrote. And you know, we know from Dr. John Henry Clarke that the first show of European intelligentsia was The Idiot and the Odyssey in 1250 BC. Mm-hmm. So, and they wrote a book of folklore, which they called the Bible, that came from the Medu-Neter, which they could not decipher. And they deciphered it in Demotic, but again, we see in synonyms, homonyms, and antonyms what they did and how they switched everything. Okay, let's look at this schizophrenic God's character. And I want to remind everyone, because this is another thing that they have driven into our people. I'm not blaspheming nobody. Okay, I'm reading the scripts just like you do. I just have a different interpretation of it. But the one thing I don't do is I don't bow down to this counterfeit spirit. Okay, so you can get mad. I don't care, because this is actually showing us how they transitioned this Thor-like God, or Woden-like God, into this blonde, blue-eyed God that you love so much. Okay, so Exodus 33:20 says, no one can see God's face and live. So I'm going to read that again, because see, when you go into these facilities, they basically hyping you up, like hyping you up before a game or, you know, a concert or whatever. Mm-hmm. So you don't really listen to what the script is saying. You just have an emotional response based on the person that's standing up on that hill or that pulpit telling you. But you're not really listening.
Right.
Your emotions are responding to this.
Yeah.
Because if you really listen, you would see all of the contradictions that we're discussing today, and even the story that I told you in the beginning. So it said in Exodus 33:20, no one can see God's face and live. But in Genesis 32:30, Jacob says, I saw God face to face, and yet my life was spared. Wow. I wonder why. I wonder why. If you're saying that nobody can see God's face and live, and then another script writer comes along and say, well, Jacob saw him face to face. Wow. And said that now grant you, he never talked to Jacob. See, and this is not even the names of these people. But see, one of the things that my goal today, now that our people's pineal glands are open and they see the evil that they're spewing towards our people, you're starting to get this, okay? I know this from the people that I recently talked to that I hadn't talked to in over a year. They're totally different in their thinking now. And I'm not saying it's because of me. I'm saying because I challenged them to come out of this 90-degree compartmentalized existence they have black folks in. You are, first of all, this is why they attack Brother Lance so hard. There is nobody else like you in this universe on this planet. Okay, you need to know and understand what that means. Okay, everything came out of what you produce. Everything on this planet came from your mind, your spirit, and your hard work. Everything. So anybody saying anything different is lying to you. Okay. But the reason why they come at a brother like Lance, who has a 963 hertz existence, okay, or what they call the God particle, and why they're spending all their time at CERN smashing protons together trying to find the Higgs boson or whatever they call it, the God particle, it's already inside of you.
Right.
Why can't you see this? Or more importantly, why can't you receive this? Okay.
That's true.
So the majority of us are at least 720 degree beings, okay, which includes the metaphysical at 720, that's beyond our physical realm or five senses. And then you have at least a third of us are at least 360 degree beings that you can see all four corners of well, three corners. They added that fourth one, and that, you know, there are reasons for that in physics. I ain't going to go into it, but there's some misinterpretation because the basic elements of because at the quantum level, it's erratic. So you can't put any numbers together. That's the first lie they told you. So the numbers 3, 6, and 9 operates outside their realm of existence. That's why they operate on a 90-degree basis. And they got our people foolishly doing the same thing. Okay. So let's look at the nature of this God. Oh, yeah. So why? Thank you, Creatrix. So how is it that you can say, so now if you're saying this is the inherent word of God and whatever is written down, because it's people, some of our people that still like this, brother. Even though they don't understand and comprehend that some man that lived thousands of years, at least 1,000 years later than these people they're talking about, okay, they act as if this person that they're taught, that Jacob had a direct conversation with the script writer. And if you suggest anything different, they're going to bite your head off. They're going to put you out of their church, and they're not going to let anybody associate. This is the foolishness our people.
Excommunicate you. Yeah.
Huh?
They excommunicate you.
Perfect word. They excommunicate you. And then now, you know, you see some of your brothers and sisters you might have grown up with. They ask you what church you go to. What difference did that make? That's the first thing they ask you. What church you go to? Huh? None. Oh, okay. You don't believe in God. Who told you that? Who told you that? Like Malcolm said, who told you to hate yourself? I never said I didn't believe in the creator, creative spirit. You're saying that. And the people that taught you that got you crazy. In fact, because I have disengaged from that, I believe in it more. Not only do I believe in it, I can receive it more.
Right.
Okay. So, all right, so let's look at the nature of this God. Is God a God of war or peace? So in Exodus 15:3, it says, the Lord is a man of war. So you'll go get your scripts so I can show you the truth, because we have to break away from this sorcery. This is our only, a close friend of mine, and we discussed this as well. And like I said, him and his wife came out of it. Thank God. They came out of it. So now he's saying that their children who hated to go to church, now the children want to sit down with them at dinner they never wanted to do before and hear more. See, our children want to hear more about who they are. They tired of worshiping these people that's destroying us and making us seem like we're inferior. They are tired of that.
They can feel it.
They can feel it. And then they are, when you start talking about this, and he was telling, Jamal was telling me, man, he said, my kids ain't never wanted to sit with me at dinner, have dinner. They want to hear more about our history, who we are. So while you're telling them about Peter and Paul and David and all these other people, they have no connection. As soon as you say that, the first thing they seeing is white folks. Okay, let's just keep it real. So you can pretend like this is not true all you want. It ain't gonna change nothing. Okay, so let's look at, because in Exodus 15:3, it clearly says, now somebody want to dispute this, come on, because I didn't write it. The Lord is a man of war. But then it turns around in Romans, and you got to remember the Greek Septuagint is an interpretation, and all you got to do is read Martin Bernal's book, The Black Athena. Okay, you don't have to take my word for it. But so when they took this from us, from our, well, they call it the mystery system. But when they took this from our shamans and our griots, then they put a different spin on it. Okay, that's bottom line. We have the proof of this. In Romans 15:33, it says, he is the God of peace. Now, let me ask you something, brother. If I came to your house and I came there in peace, I brought you a cake, ice cream, we sitting there talking and everything, then you don't say something I like. Then all of a sudden, I'm schizophrenic. You don't know that. I turn into this beast with these guns, getting ready to unalive you and your family.
Wow.
So when you think about the fact, the assault on the first, the First Amendment in Article 19, this is what we see. If you don't agree with me, then I go from being, well, you never was a God of peace, but I go from at least, giving you the benefit of the doubt. But then when you separate from me, you don't have no loyalty to my demonic concepts, then now I'm your biggest enemy.
Yep.
So you tell me which one it is. So, and you go back and read the story. It's in Exodus, in Chronicles. In one of the scripts, God commands mass killings. And we say mass killing, we talking about men, women, children, animals, obliteration or whatever. I know I'm not pronouncing the word correctly. Obliterate. Right. The whole mass of people. But in the other, preaching peace to you on Sunday. But we see this extermination taking place in a landmass right now. The same thing. Go back to Exodus and read it. This is not neo-Frasia. You people are getting crazy. You need to start reading and interpreting things based on reality that you see. Not what somebody got you kumbayaing and singing, and then you walking out there smoking, chain smoking, and mad at our other people. At your own people. Can't even wait to get out to church. I'm so sick of this, man. This is destroying our people. It's destroying our young people from being able, because what they do too to the young people is they turn on them. Because they're not following this. oh, you going to hell. Oh, God, could you imagine being 14, 15 years old and somebody telling you going to hell, and that God that created you don't like you because you won't say Jesus,
right,
or believe in the Holy Spirit? Do you know what that does to a person psychologically at that age?
Yeah.
No wonder they on drugs or whatever they're doing. It'd be crazy.
It's not funny, but it's funny. Yeah, messes them up.
Oh yeah, I mean it's very confusing. See, I talk to young people. I know. I don't listen to these old heads, man. They ain't trying to. All they want to do is condemn our kids. All you gotta do is put a mirror up when they're talking. Okay, keep on talking. Which one you? How old are they? 15, 16, really? Oh, okay. Yeah. You know, and they do this to. The thing about black people, the only thing is, man, we're just too trusting of people, man. Like somebody got your best interests at heart, and just because they quoting a script to you, oh, I'm blessed and highly favored. Really? Really? Okay, let's look at salvation. Now, this is at the root of schizophrenia to me. I don't know how other people look at schizophrenia, but this is at the root of it for me. So here we go, saying there are two different requirements. Now, if there were three different requirements, I might take a closer look at it, but I already know it's twisted because it's out of alignment with the universal laws. 3, 6, 9. Already. So once you produce a number that's outside of you, then I already know. So two different requirements. John 3:16, faith alone. Believe and you shall be saved. That's what it says. Very popular script. It's probably one of the first ones we learned as a child, right? You know, people beat you over the head with this, and believe, have faith, believe on the Lord, and you shall be saved. But then in James 2:17, it says, faith without works is dead. Yep. Action, not faith, is required. So which one is it? You tell me. Because right now, if I was a child and I heard that, I would be totally confused. I would be like, okay, well, why don't I just go out and show you how much I love the creative spirit? Why don't I go out and do that? Oh, no, well, you can't be saved that way. You have to have faith and confess and believe.
Yeah.
But I just read James. And James said, so is James lying or John? You tell me.
I'll tell you, you ask too many questions. That's what they do to the young kids, because they'll keep on going. Well, why? Oh, yeah. And you give an answer. But why is that? You give them the answer, and they run out of answers. And they'll tell you, you're not supposed to question this stuff. This is just the way it is.
Bingo. And see, that is the whole point of what we're talking about today, is that this is why they're eroding your ability to think, question things, and accept things. No, you should never do that. But I want to ask this question again, because this is fundamental to what the schizophrenia that our people suffer from. Okay. All right. And somebody can stand up and hold a Bible in their hand and then create laws that take food out of the mouth of children, that separate families and put them in cages. Brother, I don't care who it is. When I see children in cages, man, that bothers me. I don't know how. I could never do something like that. I would have to find another way to do that. But when you're dealing with a schizophrenic God and a God of war and hate, marching in one of our major cities, these masks on, these are some of the same people that be sitting up in church. Like this. But they come to your community with terror, fear, the ghosts of Mississippi type spirits. For what? Black folks ain't never did nothing to them. The majority of those people would not have anything they have if it wasn't for our descent, for our ancestors. None of them. Their parents, none of them. Their grandparents. So this is the main reason why they want to eliminate and erase our history, because anybody in their right mind, if they a goddamn alien that's blind, can come here and see that. So, this has gotten to a point of so ridiculous, it's not even ridiculous anymore. So I want to know from the people that be sending me these scripts about salvation, which one is it? Because here it has two different requirements, and I already know it's skewed by the number 2. John 3:16 says, faith alone, believe and you shall be saved. That's all it takes, is belief and faith. John is saying that, not Neil Frazier. Some of y'all, they taught you to be angry at us when we talk to you about truth. I don't care about that anymore. I'm not beholden to you anymore. Okay? I still love you. I got love for you, but I had to move beyond that. But James told me, or telling you, one of you that live by these scripts, and James 2:17, faith without works is dead. Action, not faith, is required. Now, let's go back to what we talked about in the beginning about synonyms, homonyms, and antonyms. Now you see what the real deception and manipulation is? Because I can say a word that has antonym that sound alike, spell alike, like tone and tone. Okay? Your voice inflection has one tone. And then you can talk about your body having a tone, or your skin tone.
Right.
So this is how they fake you out, because what that word means to them in their culture means something, even though you want to act like it means the same thing to you.
Right.
Well, I'm here today to tell you it don't. But I want somebody, you can email me about this, because I know you're listening, even though they lie about the numbers with Lance's shows. We know you're listening, So I want somebody to tell me how James in 2:17 said faith without works is dead. But John said that you have to have faith alone. Believe and you shall be saved. All right. So let's look at Jesus's own words. Okay. And I don't know how because none of them ever met Jesus, but let's just say for sake of a conversation, okay? Well, you can't meet a person, technically, I guess if they're talking about Yeshua, but, let's just say what it is, what they use, Jesus, right, and our people use. So Jesus's own words in John 5:31. If I testify about myself, my testimony is not true. Okay? I'll read that again, because sometimes our people don't listen. If it's not something they're itching ears to agree with what they've been indoctrinated with. Okay? You can go to John 5:31. And these are supposedly Jesus's own words. So if it's the inherent word of God, like the majority of you believe, then I guess it's Jesus' own words, according to John. If I testify about myself, my testimony is not true. I guarantee you, Jesus would be locked up if he was in a court of law. I guarantee you. Well, they did lock them up according to the story. Because he turned right around and purged himself on the stand. Because in John 8:13, he said, looking at the judge, even if I testify on my own behalf, okay, my testimony is not valid.
Wow. Keep talking, brother. I'm running to the restroom. I'll be right back.
Okay. Even if I testify on my own behalf, my testimony is not valid. Now, both of these statements were made in the same book by the same author, John. So I need somebody, these so-called, these people they call in Bible scholars, which there's no such thing. I need you to tell me what that means, because I'm totally confused right now. Totally. Okay. Let's talk about the foundation of the religion, is Christianity. It's the resurrection story, right? So we all know the story of Osar and Set, or Osiris and Isis, where this story was taken from, okay? We all know this. They know it too. But it is the foundational concept of the religion you follow called Christianity. Matthew. Now, this is an account of what happened at Jesus's tomb. Now, Matthew said that there was one angel at the tomb. So whoever told this to Matthew told him a different story than what Luke said, and Luke and Mark said. Okay? Because Luke said that there are two angels, or there were two angels at the tomb. Now, mind you, both Luke, Mark, and Matthew are all disciples of Jesus. But yet all three of them have three different accounts of the most fundamental concept in the religion of Christianity. So I'm going to read it again. Okay. It says in the resurrection story that Matthew said that there was one angel at the tomb of Jesus. Luke said that there was two angels. So both of them can't be right. Okay. Right there. But then you add a third person. And I know somebody's going to say, well, maybe Matthew didn't see the other angel. I don't know. Okay. But so now Mark told a story that the women flee from the tomb and didn't tell anybody what they saw. So we can't corroborate their story with Matthew or Luke, because supposedly they ran away. And so, they didn't tell anybody about what they saw. But, and that's what Mark said. Okay. Matthew said that they ran to tell the disciples. We have a problem here. We have a problem because only one of these encounters can be true. Okay. Now you can say that maybe nobody heard the. Well, no, you can't say that because your script says that they didn't tell anybody what they saw. So it was a deliberate act to stay silent. But yet, Matthew another disciple told a different version than Mark told. Okay, and certainly both of them cannot be true. Matthew said that they ran to tell the disciples, which would probably make more sense. Okay. Let's talk about Mary Magdalene. In some Gospels, she is the first witness to the resurrection, right? But in others, she is barely mentioned. So, brother, I'm going to go back over the resurrection story while you were gone. I was talking about this other attribute of the schizophrenic God. So the resurrection story is the foundation of Christianity. And here we see one of the major contradictions in the religion that you follow. Matthew said that there was one angel at the tomb, where Luke, another disciple, said that there are two angels, or there was two angels. Again, give the hypothesis that maybe Matthew didn't see the other angel. Maybe he was had to go around the corner to do whatever they do. And maybe by the time Luke got there, the other angel came back. You know, I'm just trying to add some credibility to the story, because here it's a major contradiction from supposedly the people that walked with Jesus. So again, Matthew said there was one angel at the tomb. Luke said there was two. Mark said that the women at the tomb fled, and they didn't tell anybody what they saw. But Matthew said that they ran to tell the disciples. And again, both of those cannot be true. Okay, this absolutely cannot be true. So we're at Mary Magdalene. So in some Gospels, she's the first witness to the resurrection. But in others, she is barely mentioned. Now, how can somebody who was this close to Jesus, we know that she even followed him when they, was doing what they were going to do to him, that they, according to the story in the New Testament, Mary Magdalene was probably the closest woman, not probably was, to Jesus. But yet John says that Mary Magdalene sees Jesus alone. But in the others, it's a group of the women that sees the tomb, Jesus in the tomb, or the empty tomb. A completely different story about the same event. Again, we see Mary Magdalene, who is very prominent in some Gospels. Because of the fact she's the first witness, to the resurrection. But in others, she is barely mentioned. And let's look at the genealogy of Jesus. Matthew lists 42 generations from Abraham to Jesus. But Luke, now the thing that strikes me about these different interpretations by these disciples, I could see if they were talking about different events, but they're talking about the same events, okay? How could there be such an extreme in the interpretation of these foundational events in Christianity?
Right.
That is almost, So Luke had a list of 77 names, from, from Solomon, Oh, yeah. Luke had a list of 77 names that don't match. Matthew list starts with Solomon, not Abraham. And Luke's version starts with Nathan. Okay. So again, we have the four major gospel writers or gospel interpreters of these writings, or people writing about them, saying four different things about a very, very important aspect of Christianity, the genealogy of Jesus. Now, why in the world would the four most prominent people, the disciples of Jesus, have such a major expression of the same event that is so critical to this religion? God's laws. We're down to the last three here. God's laws. Leviticus 11. It bans eating rabbits because they chew cud. However, rabbits don't chew cud. Okay, go figure that. In Deuteronomy, the 14th chapter, it repeats these dietary laws, but it contradicts Leviticus on which animals are clean. Go read it for yourself. Let's look at slavery. In Exodus, it says that you can keep Hebrew slaves for only 6 years. Well, not only, 1 year is a long time, but for 6 years. Now, this reminds me of indentured servitude that Europeans and the steppe-fetching coons want to compare to chattel slavery, which we know there is no comparison. But in Leviticus, it says you can keep a foreign slave permanently. So that's the attitude they have with our people. That's why they view you as a foreigner. And so people get confused when they keep saying this is our country. That's what they mean. Systemically, this is their country. They know you are the indigenous. They ain't what they... Again, we have to stop evaluating things based on their standards. It's not the same for you.
That's right.
Oh, this is our country too. They're not talking about the land. Well, they are talking about the land, but they're talking about the spirit of what they believe. That's their manifest destiny. That's what they're talking about, which you don't get. Okay. But yeah, the way they looked at slavery is, okay, in Exodus, it says you can keep Hebrew slaves for 6 years. But in Leviticus, it says that you can keep a foreign slave permanently. So, they, like they do today, they differentiate between you and white folks, the melanated people. And a lot of them are now starting, because when something is put right in your face, you can deny it all you want, but you know it's true, or you know it's the reality of what is being done to you.
That's right.
And lastly, moral teachings. In the New Testament, Jesus said, love your enemies. Okay, that is a foundational moral concept in this religion you follow, or have been following for centuries, for generations. Love your neighbor, right? As yourself. Love, not only that, love your enemies. But we know why they taught you that. But in the Old Testament, as I said in the beginning, the enemies are totally obliterated, annihilated. Okay. They are wiped out completely. The men, women, children, and animals. And in 1 Samuel 15:3, God commands Saul, King Saul, like the king that you wanted, that you have, to destroy everything from Amalek. No mercy, no exceptions, what you're seeing today. Whereas one preaches forgiveness and the other preaches genocide. So that's just a small, like, look into what we have been dealing with for centuries, and how now our people have to come face to face with this bestiality. There's no, there's just no other way to say it, brother. They have to. Because if we don't, we're going to be totally destroyed. Spiritually, psychologically, and maybe physically. That is a real possibility. Because if they can wipe out melanated people anywhere in this world, like we see now, bombing and killing them, and then go in and read their Bible. Because keep in mind now, the people that we see doing this, they don't believe in this New Testament you do. They believe in this old God. They're part of schizophrenia, right? Is that old God we was reading about. Okay, that anti-black, bigoted God that, is saying kill everything moving that's not like you. Okay.
That's their credo.
Huh?
That's their modus operandi.
Oh, no doubt.
No matter how much or how well they cloak themselves.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And like we said earlier, they like to get around you because they love you, but they get in close proximity to pick up your rhythms.
Yeah.
If your rhythm is 2, 4, 6, 8, they'll be waiting over you over by 10 with a pistol. You
oh,
I mean?
Hello? You think? And when we're talking about that destiny swapping, that is actually what they did to black folks. Or, when we talk about stolen legacy and someone stole your birthright, right? Like the story they tell about Isaac and Esau, and how Esau, the oldest one, which is you. See, these people are crazy, man. They put this stuff right back in your face and enslave you with it. So technically Esau, and this is exactly what happened to you, the oldest son, his birthright was taken away and given to the youngest one, or the new ones on the block, okay, which haven't been on this earth hardly like one day when you look at time, real time. But that's exactly what happened. And your birthright was stolen. Your legacy was stolen. Your inventions were stolen. While at the same time telling you about this New Testament God, but worshiping in their actions this Old Testament God. And with that, brother, I'll end the show.
Thanks again. Very intense again. Something to think about, but it's so embedded in some of us that some will never see it, but a good amount will, but not all of us, it's too far gone, but we have to keep on pushing, and some will get it,
Some will. And you know what? And to the extent that those, and lastly, based on what you just said, which is 100% true, is that they came up with the story, 144,000, which is actually a prophecy that was in the Medu. They stole that, and they came up with this, and our people, there's going to be 144,000 sealed, and don't even know where that came from.
I used to hear that growing up a lot, but nobody could ever say what it really was. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. This is where they got it from. the book is stones.
Yep.
So, you know, I'm done arguing with our people about this, man. We can only just keep moving forward, brother, with what we are tasked to do. And I'll stay plugged in. Maybe our next show, we'll talk about this term.
Yeah, we have to.
Yeah, we have
slowly but surely.
Yeah,
crossing every T and dotting every I.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because the floodgates are open. They ain't trying to hide nothing no more, and more importantly, they have the power to implement it.
Right.
So you better know and keep your black butt out of those protests and out in those streets. This ain't got nothing to do with you. This is a pan-European war. Okay, you ain't got nothing to do with what's going on. Okay. All right, my brother.
Yes, brother. Thank you so much.
Love. And I'll talk to you again soon. I'll shoot you an email. All right.
Thank you, brother. Thank you so much. Wow. Another great sharing of information. I want to thank everybody who is here. And I most definitely saw you all. Giant Gain, Diane, Innocent Shaka, yes, Libby Lou. A lot of folks didn't come into the chat room, but I see that there's some numbers here. And you're never too old to pull away what has been embedded in a wrong way and replace. A number has been done on us so intensely, and we have to face it, that a lot of us have been duped and fooled, bamboozled, like they say. And before we can come to a full realization of what really is, I don't want to end of the line again and learn over. They want to think that what they have is the real deal. But as time goes on, you'll understand. It's like seeing a nice pair of shoes that you really, really like, and it's not your size. It's one size smaller, but you love these shoes so much that you still gonna buy them. And you squeeze your toes into them and you ignore the pain. But after a while, the pain gets so great, you're uncomfortable. And just to have the look on the outside, get the right shoes, get the right fit, learn the right information, and apply yourself. You can never go wrong. Yes. Thank you all for being here. I'm going to move on. But thank you for your support, and always thank you for your presence. And of course, as you know, I'm always working. I'm always doing something. And what you don't see me doing will aid in what you will see. You know, and I been working with these electronics and getting things connected and wires, and it's been intense. But thank you very much. And we'll see you tomorrow. Much love. Peace.
But don't know what goes on me. News got a story with a new take on me. Carrying out the window with the screw face on me. But I know that God love me when my burn 95 degrees and I can't get sunburn. Wonder when your government don't make me legal. Burn the whole city if I can't be equal. Get off my please, Brad, I earned that. 400 years, how you still ain't learned that? I take pack to the lung, kill the stress to the head. I'm tryna do more for the soul, way less for the bread. Yes sir, I take pack to the lung, kill the stress to the head. I see the things that they do way less than they say.
Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out. Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out. Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out. Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out.
Shout out to the trying to gentrify the genre. Tell them free my middle finger to your honor. In the days coming down the seconds on the timer. Goofy still trying to purchase that designer. About to buy, learn to grow my own food. Cause I don't like the look they give me in the Whole Foods. And when you stay ready, you ain't gotta get ready. But it ain't on me now, I'm limping cause my heavy. But ain't sweet, think we thin. My whole attitude on MC Ren. It's my neighborhood now, Bob, I bought that. 400 years, how you still ain't caught that? I take pack to the lung, kill the stress to the head. I'm tryna do more for the soul, way less for the bread. Yes sir, I take pack to the lung, kill the stress to the head. I see the things that they do way less than they say.
Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out. Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out. Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out. Cause it's a war on the real, baby, look outside. A war on the real, baby, look out.
Take pack to the lung, kill the stress to the head. I'm tryna do more for the soul, way less for the bread. Yes sir, I take pack to the lung, kill the stress to the head. I see the things that they do way less than they say.
Cause it's a war on the real, baby.